Good morning. Welcome back to my workbench. My name is Erica, and I am so happy that you're here today. Do you remember last weekend we looked at an MS362 that I bought on Facebook Marketplace for $250? Remember that one that was all covered in pine sap? The catcher is totally missing. The crankcase, I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. I just see bare metal. That AV mount is rotten. She's pretty dirty. We're missing a muffler bolt down in the corner there. Spark arrestor is missing. The further we dug, the worse it got. This chainsaw was not ready to go and cut wood. This saw requires quite a few parts and quite a bit of time to put it back into service. What do you expect I'll do? I know what you expect. Order parts and fix it. Let's get started. We are back with our MS362, bought on Facebook Marketplace for $250. It did run. We took it outside and had it running. It was running rich, but obviously in desperate need of service. And as we dug, we just found more and more problems. The clutch side, everything completely wore out. If you've seen part one last weekend, then you know all the problems that we found with this and how we ended up with the cylinder pulled off this. If you didn't see part one, you don't want to miss that one. We had no vacuum leak, but we had a very minor pressure leak, which we tracked down to the cylinder gasket up here in the right corner. So I thought I would just pull the cylinder off, new gasket, tighten this thing up, but then we found more problems. Our piston has a crack in it. Yes, this thing runs, but how long would it run with a cracked piston? I have no idea. It could blow up on us in the wood pile or blow up on someone if I sell this saw. So I decided that we're going to go all the way with this thing. For the average guy or girl at home who just needs a firewood saw, if you go out and buy this saw for $250 and bring it home, and it needs what this saw needs, you'll be in over your head. And you should just go out and buy yourself a new saw. But we are going to go through all the steps and rebuild this thing for your viewing pleasure. I went ahead and ordered a brand new OEM piston for this. The cylinder is beautiful. We're going to reuse it. Of course, new air filters, the inner and the outer, rim sprocket kit, a new chain catcher, a new worm gear, a brand new clutch. We'll replace all the rotten AV mounts, a new brake band, new fuel line, a carb kit. There's more AV mounts, crank bearing, more fuel line, another crank bearing, gasket set including new crank seals. That little spring came off the clutch side of the saw and I lost it while cleaning it, so I have to replace it with a new one. And this little white piece was missing on the clutch side, so we'll replace it too. You're looking at over $500 in OEM Stihl parts here. Plus remember, this saw did not come with a barn chain, so we have to supply a barn chain for it too. Nobody in their right mind would pay that much for a chainsaw and then buy this much money worth of parts. But I'm not in my right mind. Just ask my dad. Let's get started. This saw is not M-tronic, so we can't plug it in. We don't know how many hours are on it. But if you want a good judge of how many hours are on your non-M-tronic saw, just look at the throttle rod. I examined this closely afterwards, and do you see the wear on this? This saw has probably done a pile of work. Circlip. wrist pin. Here's a close-up look at our piston. It's not scored, but you can see wear. This saw probably has some very heavy use on it. Let's look at this crack up close. Tip of my finger, you see that hairline crack. You can see it on the inside too. How long would this saw have run with this condition? I don't know. Those rings are sharp, well broken in. I measured the skirt wear. So this is our new piston and our old one. And the old one is 10 thousandths smaller in diameter than the new one, measured outside to outside. Is that a lot? I don't really know. But I know somebody watching this knows. Maybe we had some piston slap. And that's where the crack came from. Maybe. Wrist pin bearing. There's no up and down play in the big bearing. Our crankshaft looks excellent. So let's split this thing apart. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and something under that dirt. The fifth one to take out, and we'll get this thing split. I'm just gonna go clean all that dirt out of that hole. Those are all T27s. Always make sure that you have all your bolts out. This one has 5, some models have 6, and I looked in the manual and there are no dowel pins to punch out. Don't forget to remove that snap ring. Snap ring off. Let's go ahead and split this thing open. Hopefully my Husky tool will work on this model. We found out that it doesn't work on the 028, but it did work on the 261. Does it work on a 362? I don't know. So even though this fits, I had it mounted on there and gave it a few turns. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't want to easily come apart. I'm just going to get my Stihl tool and use it. Let's try this again. Usually that bearing would stay with the crankcase, but it stayed with the crankshaft this time. Just going to do a little bit of cleanup, a little bit of bar oil running around here, and then we will continue. Bar oil all cleaned up. I've got my crankshaft removal tool attached here, and we're going to push this crankshaft out. That tool, there's the part number. And the bearing came out of that side as well. So there's our crankshaft with both bearings attached to it. Tyler's going to use some fancy tool over at his workbench and he'll get these pulled off for me. Crankshaft is ready to go. Let's get the crank seals out of these crankcase halves. Look at that bearing. We are going to heat up these case halves and put new bearings in them. My bearings are over in the freezer. I'll go grab them. You can see how well that worked. We heated up the case with a propane torch. You just don't want to hold the flame in one place for too long. Our bearings were in the freezer. The bearing dropped right in. And then with it still hot, I was able to push the crankshaft into place. Now we are going to install the bearing in the other side, but first we are going to install the oil pump. The oil pump works as a locating surface, so when we push the bearing in, the oil pump will stop it from going too far. Oil pump is installed. You want to make sure that your rubber bits are removed or you'll melt them when you do this. Take the oil pump back off. Our new crankcase gasket came out of this seal kit. To tighten our crankcase bolts down, the 362 service manual says to do it in 2 steps. Tighten all 5 down to 4 Newton meters, and then go back and tighten all 5 down to 10 Newton meters. Okay, they're all tightened to 4. Now we'll go to 10. The crankcase gasket sticks up a little bit on both sides. We're just going to flush cut that off. Let's go ahead and install our crank seals. I'll put a bit of grease on the lip. And our other crank seal. That crank seal is recessed a little bit, as you can see on the tool there. So if you didn't have this tool, you'd want to put that crank seal about 1.5 millimeters to 2 millimeters recessed. Let's install the piston and the cylinder. My cylinder gasket's in place. That was the last gasket to come out of my gasket kit. We're installing a brand new OEM piston from Stihl. So that came with the piston and rings, a new wrist pin bearing, and circlips. The carbon was all cleaned out of the cylinder. It looks fantastic. We're going to install 4 new cylinder bolts. To torque these down, same thing as the crankcase, 4 Newton meters, and then we'll finish them off at 10 Newton meters. And now 10. Now I'm going to seal this thing back up, and we're going to do a pressure vac test. Exhaust is blocked off, spark plug's back in, decompression valve is plugged, intake back on with my intake block. Let's pressure vac test it. Piston is at bottom dead center. We'll pull vacuum first, looking for half a bar. Vacuum looks good. Go over to pressure. Looks good. This was missing 1 muffler bolt, so we will install a new one. I uncovered more dirt, so I plugged these holes up, cleaned this boot off well, and went and cleaned this up. Pine sap everywhere. Well, let's make this thing look like a chainsaw again. I didn't want to remove that intake area again. Those 4 screws are a little bit tricky to get to, so that's why I removed this. I could put that white shroud back in, and now we can put this back on. We'll install a new one. There's the part number. We're going to go ahead and install the fuel tank. I have installed both fuel lines brand new, the upper and the lower, and I was fighting with this fuel cap, so I have put a brand new fuel cap on it. Let's test the tank vent before we install it. Got my pressure vac tester hooked up to the top of my fuel line, and we're going to pull vacuum, and it should not hold vacuum. There, I can hear it working. The tank vent is operating properly, so we'll leave it alone. Let's get this tank on. So we're going to feed this fuel line up in through here. The spark arrestor was missing because this hole was stripped. So we have went from M4 to M5, and it's now T27, and the spark arrestor is back in. Let's put our handle back on. A new chain catcher. There was nothing left of the old one. There's the part number for the other side, and there's the part number for that one there. Throttle rod is reinstalled. Let's put the clutch side of this saw back together. Oil line. Oil pump. A new worm. I've seen it called different things. I think the package in this case says worm. And that chain catcher, there's the part number for it. Top. And we have a brand new clutch. And there's your part number. That's an 1147 at the beginning. Spark plug out. The piston is stopped with rope. We're going to tighten the clutch down, and we tighten it backwards. It's reverse thread. So I brought the piston up just past the exhaust port and then put my rope in. You don't want to get your rope caught in the ports. The service manual says tighten this to 50 Newton meters. Clutch is tightened down. Let's leave the rope in place and put our flywheel back on. Just going to clean the crankshaft off. Thanks to Tyler, the flywheel looks like brand new. $33 Newton meters. I like to put the rope in like this. That way when I pull it out, if I had lost some, I would know it. We're going to reinstall the coil. Remember when we pulled the coil off the spark plug? And here's our spark plug. So out of this, here's what we dug out. So there is the screw on top off of that spark plug and the coil broken. So this has been repaired and is ready to install. If you ever need a new one of those for your coil wire, there's the part number 409980603. Let's put the recoil back on. I think it needs work. When I removed this piece of plastic just fell out. It wasn't attached. I forgot to tell Tyler that, and he spent quite a bit of time cleaning this, and it's broken. Oops. When we were cleaning this saw, we lost this little spring, so we'll put a new one in it. Looks like something out of a Swiss watch. It goes from that pin to this thing. Put the brake handle back on. Our clip is back on. Let's install a new brake band. The band that we took off of this was deformed. Material was missing because everything on this side was worn out. So there's our new one, and there's the part number. Just think of this like a government-owned saw. The cost doesn't matter. Just shower it with money. Next up, the brake spring, the cover, and the hardware. We couldn't get that any cleaner. It's just stained brown. Here's our rim sprocket kit. and a new needle bearing, which doesn't come in the kit. Just grease that needle bearing up with some all-purpose grease. Just like new. When we took this saw apart, there was nothing right here, and there's supposed to be a piece there. There's the part number. 1140 is what it starts with. We're going to replace that. That came out of the top of the felling spike, and it's wore out. There's what we took off of it, and there's what it should look like. It's missing the whole bottom, which is what would hold this little white thing on, which is probably why that was missing. Now that thing is held in there properly. The summer-winter shutter, we'll install it in the summer position. Let's install our rebuilt starter. Next up is our decompression valve. So right now I have it plugged. The decompression valve we took out of it. It's a little bit bent. I wonder if something has hit it. It's probably original to the saw. The risk to these is if this thing broke and a piece of it went down into the engine, it would be game over. I think what we're going to do is plug the hole up, and we'll try this saw without a decompression valve. And if we ever change our mind, we can order a new one and install it. They are expensive. I think that's $50 or $60 Canadian. So we'll just skip on that for now and plug it up. So that is a plug, but I've modified it to use it as a tool. So I'll keep that one, and I'll just put an unmodified one in it. Well, this saw is coming along now. I think we are going to move on to the carburetor. So let's get this out of the way. Today we'll use the carb stand that Stu made for me. Thank you, Stu. All right, so this carburetor, the low jet is out a turn and a half, and the high jet still has the limiter cap in it, although somebody has been poking at it with something. So something was wrong, and they were trying to make adjustments here. Limiter cap pulled out, and that mixture screw is one turn out, which is factory settings. Well, let's open this puppy up and see what we have. Ivy has her Canadian tuxedo on. She's ready for wood cutting. Here, we need to see you. and show them your new jacket. Daddy took her. The micro screen has some dirt in it. Remember, the fuel filter we took out of the saw was filthy. There is some water damage. See that at the tip of my finger. The diaphragm is distorted. Well, let's check out the other side. This is one of those carburetors where that nozzle valve can't be bought separately. We've talked about this before. Some carbs, you can punch them out and replace them. This is one that you can't buy. Check that metering lever height. Looks fine. Brand new carbs, $180 Canadian. We're going to try to avoid that. So let's clean this thing, rebuild it, and put it back on that saw. The carb kit for this is K10-WTE. So Tyler just asked me if I looked inside this carb when I was diagnosing this saw, and no, I didn't. I just looked in it for the first time now after ordering all of those parts. And he said, now I am on probation. Okay, carb is back from cleaning. Let's put our new micro screen in. That metering lever is set too high. You see it's catching my tool. So that could lead to a rich running condition, and that could also lead to the saw flooding while it's sitting. Yeah, that looks good now. Just bent it down slightly. Ivy, can you help me clean up here? Can you pass me those tools, please? Pass me the screwdriver. Thank you. And that one. Oh, thank you for your help. Have you guys ever heard of something called DNA My Dog? I ordered this kit off of Amazon, and they send you a little package in the mail with a swab, and you swab your dog's cheek and then mail off the sample, and they come back and tell you your dog's DNA, the breed. So I didn't tell them anything about her. I just sent off her DNA, and they tell me that she is 49% Chihuahua, 18% Border Collie, 18% Pointer, and then the rest of her is miniature wire-haired dachshund. Does that sound right to you? Looks like a Chihuahua to me. I don't see any pointer in her. Well, let's make sure this carb holds pressure now that we've rebuilt it. 10 psi. And yes, it holds pressure. Pay close attention, Ivy. Well, let's go ahead and put the carb back on this. Ivy, please don't chew my chainsaw. choke rod. This saw is getting new air filters. And a new outer. Part numbers. The top cover's pretty faded. I thought about ordering a new one for it, but they're like $80 and I'm already over my head on this, so we're gonna put this back on it. It looks quite different than it did when I first put it on the workbench, doesn't it? We need something for the top of it. That looks good. Well, I think we're down to a bar and chain. Gotta go find a bar and chain for it, fuel, bar oil, and we're almost there. We need to put a new fuel filter in here. We'll install one of those. Let's step outside with it. Make sure it runs. We'll make sure it's oiling. I'll meet you outside.
So, just in case everyone didn't know, we gotta hook this back up. I'm guessing we're gonna have a little talk later.
I'm already on probation.
Hopefully it's not flooded. A little less fuel on the low side. All right, it runs pretty good. We'll do the final carb setting, throw a bar and chain on it, and we'll cut up maybe 3 of those logs. My son's coming over to split some wood later this week, so we'll give him some work to do. Can't wait.
Well, it starts good as soon as you hook the coil up to the spark plug. Let's throw a bar and chain on this, and we'll meet you at the wood pile.
I like it. That's a good working saw right there. I'm glad we fixed it. You don't see many non-Mtronic 362s anymore. At least we don't. Hold that bar pretty good, 24 inch. I'm happy with it. Actually, I'm really happy the carburetor worked out too. I wasn't sure. Nothing. It tuned perfectly. 2800, and I think, was it 13? Tuned the high to 13.7. No, it says 14, but I always, a little bit conservative on the high speed adjustment. Yeah, works good.
Wait, it's been 5 minutes. Will it restart?
Oh. No problem.
If you're still here, thank you so much for staying for the whole video. I really appreciate all of you. So let's talk about what happened here exactly. I went out and bought this chainsaw for $250. I found it on Facebook Marketplace. I bought it as a running chainsaw. And yes, it did run. And although it did run, it had all kinds of problems. If you have watched this whole video, then you know exactly what went into this saw. And as the video went along, I priced every part as I put it on the saw. You can see there were a few really pricey items here. The piston would have been the most expensive. The clutch is quite pricey. The drum sprocket kit is a bit pricey. The starter needed a full rebuild. As we went, we just found more and more wrong. Right up to the point where we went to put a bar and chain on it and found the tensioner broken. So let's talk about a scenario where a homeowner wants to buy a saw to cut firewood. You go out and you buy this saw for $250 with no bar and chain. It runs. You bring it home. Maybe you stop into the dealer and buy yourself a new bar and chain. Go home, start cutting wood. What would have happened? So I think the first problem you would have noticed is that the chain tensioner wasn't working correctly. So you would have had a hard time putting your new bar and chain on. Depending on how deep you dug, maybe you fix the tensioner and then try to cut again, and you would realize that your bar wasn't getting bar oil. And then if you dug into the clutch area, you would have found the clutch drum worn out, the worm gear worn out, and the clutch broken. You may have also noticed that your saw wasn't running correctly. We had a broken spark plug, we had a completely packed fuel filter, we had a packed air filter, we had a carb in need of rebuild. The cracked piston may have went undetected, and maybe this saw would have ran for quite a while. The only reason that we know this saw had a cracked piston was because I found a small air leak at the cylinder gasket and I chose to pull the cylinder off. If that leak hadn't have been there, I never would have pulled the cylinder and I never would have discovered the crack in this. I wonder how many saws are out there running with a cracked piston. I got something else neat to tell you too. I didn't buy just one saw where I got this from. I bought 4 saws. So I bought 2 362s. This is one of them. I also bought a 362 M-tronic saw. The carb is off. He says just put the carb back on, it's good to go. I also bought a 440 Arctic from him, and I bought a 461. And all of them pretty much look like this one looked. If you haven't figured me out yet, you're going to real fast. I love bringing old, abused, dirty saws back to life. Actually, I thrive on it. So I spent far too much money on this chainsaw. Between buying the power head, this bar and chain, and all of these parts, I have over $1,400 Canadian into this chainsaw, and that's not taking into account 1 second of my time. What's the saw worth to sell now? I have no idea, but we'll soon find out because when this video ends, this baby should be live on eBay. If you want to buy this saw, head over to eBay, Married with Small Engines, and check it out. I've never sold a saw on eBay before. We'll see how this one goes, and if it goes well and there's no hiccups, I will start doing this on a regular basis. We'll fix the saw together, and then we'll put it up for sale, because God knows I can't keep all of them. Well, I guess that's it for the MS362 that came from Facebook for $250 and needed a ton of work. It's time to move on to the next chainsaw. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.